This is another episode of the Masters of Beautiful Achievements. What can we learn from them on how they apply natural science, systems thinking, and personal leadership to realize these beautiful achievements? My name is Alexander Princeton, and great you are listening to this episode. If you're looking for more inspiring episodes, check out my website mastersofbeautifuliachievements.com. The link can be found here below. These conversations are made possible by our Patreon and Gumtree community, so I want to thank each of you for your monthly or even your one-time support. Your contributions enables me to create these amazing conversations, so thank you for your support. When you're not a member yet, click on the links below to join and be part of this amazing community. If you're interested in how I can help your business create beautiful achievements, choose one of my Gumtree offers on how you want to engage with me, or contact me directly via Scope Matters website. And now it is time to enjoy the conversation with today's masters. So welcome. We're doing another MBA podcast, and today Ivanka Milenkovic is our guest. She's from Serbia, to be more specific, from Belgrade. And I invited her because she's a microbiologist by training and also a specialist in growing mushrooms. And in my point of view, mushrooms are the most undervalued kingdom of the five kingdoms of nature. And that's why today Ivanka is going to share us her insights, also from an entrepreneur perspective, and also maybe more important, but both of them from a microbiology perspective. What are mushrooms? What can we do with mushrooms? So welcome, Ivanka, to the podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I am honored by this invitation, and really.
And to start off, Ivanka, what can you tell us a little bit about yourself for introduction, that people know who Ivanka is and where you are in life at the moment?
Well, yes, I am, like you said, I am Ivanka Milenkovic. I was born already on December 3rd. It will be exactly 61 years how of my birth. And I have to tell you that I am not feeling as a lady of a serious middle age, but maybe it's maybe because of my lifestyle, maybe because of the mushrooms, maybe because of all circumstances. But I am biologist. I finished my university here in Belgrade on 1987. I finished biology faculty, and according to that modern education system, in fact, our finalization of the university was something which is about master degree in this modern Bologna system. And after that, I got my very first job, and this is also very interesting to know. It is on the same place where I'm sitting today. So I hadn't moved from my place for 36 years old. Almost, it was huge, a very big institute for agriculture research in
Mm-hmm.
that time in ex-Yugoslavia, dedicated towards improving agriculture sector in all aspects.
Okay.
And department for mycelium spawn production mushroom research was totally empty because my colleagues from agriculture faculty really had considered that mushrooms are something so stupid and so small and so that simply they totally underrated even thinking go in science and development of the mushroom
Hmm.
technology. So, as a biologist, I had been invited to work in that department, and to be honest, it was nothing. It was only title department, and nothing was here
Mm-hmm.
regarding that. But fortunately, like always in life, everything depends of the people. Also, that things happen thanks of the huge authority, enthusiasm, knowledge, and vision of the director of institute in that time. And he said, listen, don't care about everybody. You are going to focus on those mushrooms. And also for me, mushrooms was nothing but only just one subject on my university. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
About the technology, I didn't know a lot, but I always had been a person who I always accept the challenge. And can you imagine in that young age, it was almost nothing was it was not a doubt. So of course I accepted the challenge, and among I think 300 agriculture engineers, I was only one biologist who
But,
was
but
working.
but it was also in that time that mushrooms was not that popular. I mean, worldwide from
Of
science
course,
point of view.
yes, it is. Yes, but I have to tell you, to be very honest, Alexander, it is the lot of things. It is not changed a lot for the last 35 years. I will tell you later on during the discussion. In that time, you had a group of 300 person globally who had attended the meeting, who had attended the Congress. And to be honest with you, today it is almost the same. It is even worse because all who had been 30 years ago are still here, and we are just 30 years older. And it is about mushroom science and the biology and technology and
Mm-hmm.
cultivation, the facts. And that's why I don't understand, but maybe during the talk, I can say to you my perspective, why I think that it is. So in that time, the mycelium, the spawn, was in fact the main subject of interest of institute, and I really didn't have anything to do here because I did not have any opportunity to consult to learn from somebody. And thanks of the fact that my chief and director in that time had a really total open mind approach, I founded Dr. Van Griensven. In that time, he was a director of Mushroom Experimental Station in Horst, which was in that time most advanced and most best mushroom scientific laboratory globally.
Mm-hmm.
And very honestly speaking, and with full authority, I would say that today globally such an important organization, scientific organization, uh, still does not exist today. So it was the best lab, best experimental station, best whatever. In that time, they had be the birthplace for the two strains of champignon in that time, which still are most popular in the global world. So to make story short, I traveled to Holland. I That's also very interesting because you are from Holland, then people from your auditorium will recognize. I book the the hotel. I asked to book the hotel in Merlo, and instead to be situated in Merlo, I book the hotel in Merlo, and it is all in Limburg, but pretty big distance in that moment. So I traveled there because in that time in Horst had been organized a huge mushroom exhibition where experimental Horst had a department. And thanks of all that, my mess with the Mirlo and Merlo and everything, because I didn't have a clue about the Limburg and about that. Then I dropped on the exhibition last day, last hour, and stand in front of my dear Professor Griensven, who in that time and still is my biggest authority in professional life. And I stood in front of him and tell, I am Ivanka Milenkovic, I'm coming from Belgrade. I can imagine how I was funny in that moment. But thanks of that open approach, thanks of that open, really, and very friendly and naive
Mm-hmm.
relation, 6 months later, I got a scholarship, and I got yes, I got a scholarship thanks of the thanks of the Professor Van Griensven, and in that time, famous, the most famous scientist in mushroom science, Dr. Gerda Fritsche, still was alive. She was retired, but alive. And thanks of two of them, I got a scholarship, and I came in Holland, and that's how my really professional diving in the mushroom science started. I spent there sometimes. Then I profess and finish experimental work with in the field of mushroom genetic and mushroom cultivation, and create my wonderful network, which still exists. So I am feeling partly also the Dutch citizen, because I have there wonderful friends, including you, and including later on generated friendships. And then I came back after 6 months with intention to come back in Holland and work there to continue to work in mushroom experimental station, because they admired very much also my level of education as a biologist, because our university was pretty strong. And then, but I had felt serious nostalgia regarding my country, and I
Mm-hmm.
had felt very unhappy in there, not because of bad experience with my Dutch friends, just opposite. I told you, still have a wonderful network there, but simply it was, I am by mentality, by my energy, by my way of life, I belong to the South, to the Central Balkan, and I reject that wonderful offer which Professor Griensven offered to me. And then I dropped, instead to come back in Horst, wonderful, peaceful, beautiful village. My institute, where I came back, just sent me on the region which is today named Kosovo.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it was almost war zone already. So from Horst, I dropped there. So that's, trust me, was a pretty serious challenge. But okay, there I gotten a job, and I gotten a project to develop the biggest oyster mushroom farm in Europe in that time. And then I struggling to do that, and we succeed. And to make story short, then thanks of the investigation during that, my work on the south of Serbia or on Kosovo, or I really don't care how it will be named. We created that beautiful experimental work with the spent substrate after oyster mushroom farming, and thanks of that, scientific article had been published. Beside that, in that moment, those articles could not be published officially, because Serbia had been under the strong political sanction because of the wars and all stupidity. But because of the extremely interesting aspect, Elsevier accepted to publish our article, which was absolutely unbelievable situation, because we had been totally closed and totally isolate. Yes, after that article which had been published, I traveled to China, because in that time, as a European student, it was pretty interesting for them to have somebody who will share the knowledge, and this is the typical Chinese behavior. And then later on again travel in China, thanks of that scientific work. And when it is everything, when it was on the second time on the Congress where I met Ginter Pauli and Professor C.T. Chang, and that's how my adventure with Zeri and start. And that's my background. On 2002, when political changing happened here in Serbia, I was I created my production in the middle of nowhere, on the place where only water floating, on
Mm-hmm.
the place, it is just across the street of the place where I started to work 30 years ago. And two girls, me and my best friend, we just decided to set up the mushroom farm, which still exists. And that,
Congratulations.
yes, and that's how the mushroom farm, which had been created in that moment, had been in fact created to be the bridge between science and practice, and to be some place where the science and practice will meet, something like mushroom experimental station in Horst in that time. But what I can say today, I have that capacity that I can say yes, we succeed. But in the meantime, I don't think that it had been very welcome in scientific cycle here in Belgrade. But fortunately, it was very welcome in scientific cycle in European global level. And more or less, that's my life. And thanks of Zeri and thanks of Ginter Pauli, we had been mentioned as a first blue economy company. And one of the example of the blue economy, we created that coffee waste mushrooms. Thanks of the collaboration with Turin University in 2008, because it was the project of Lavazza, and Lavazza wanted to have something super special.
Yeah,
And
Lavazza is a big coffee
yeah,
producer,
yeah.
coffee
And they
maker in
had,
Italy. Yeah.
yes, and they had financed a big project about the systemic design in Turin University, and recognition, like thanks to that Lavazza generosity, department of the university Professor
Hmm.
Gino Bastignano asked me to make the mushroom on the coffee waste like paradigm of sustainability. That's how we made, and that's how that coffee mushroom, yes, if you allowed me to say so, that's how that journey start, and that's how everything start. And then a lot of companies had came, and then it is almost stream in technology, in mushroom technology production. And that's more or less is my life. So today we are unique organic mushroom farm in this part of Europe. We are the typical circular company, circular economy company, blue economy as well, because I appreciate very much nice internal relation among the people, open source approach. And thanks of all what I told you, we created on 2013, 14 that Ekofungi school. And I'm super proud of the network of small entrepreneurs who learned here how to grow mushrooms, and all about the coffee waste mushroom urban farming and everything. It must be very well known to your auditorium and to you personally. So that's how everything starts.
So basically, you're become from from a student, you become a mentor now for a lot of
Yeah,
entrepreneurs.
yeah, yes.
For the record, what kind of mushrooms are you growing? And I understood from a network colleague of us that you sell them also on Amazon.
Yeah. Yes, we only produce champignon and oyster.
Okay.
Those two varieties we produce, oyster and champignon. And I do not touch that medical mushroom aspect, because I have some personal uh, I'm conservative regarding that medical approach, not because I have a doubt about the positive impact of the mushroom on our body, but I am strongly against manipulation. And unfortunately, when you touch in the health issue, then you are very on the sharp line to use somebody else like a marketing tool, and I'm strongly against that.
Mm,
There is
I
yes,
understand,
and that,
Ivanka. I just wanna share that if people are interested in what you're selling, they can buy it on Amazon at the moment.
okay. Thank you very much. I
Yeah,
am. We are.
Ivanka, the audience is globally, so and Amazon ships globally. So
Thank you very much. No, we are only selling on US, on
okay.
Amazon US. Yeah, only on Amazon US, and this is also challenge for one small entrepreneur. We are the first Serbian SME who are selling on Amazon US as a
Hmm.
brand. And we are, yes, because it was a pretty big challenge, and I can say, of course, a lot about that. But the point is that we estimated that business to consumer approach is the most acceptable for us. We are small producer, and we want that our product is going in the kitchen of our consumer who admire really good food. And unfortunately, retailers kill us. So that's how on 2020 we developed that on Amazon. We went on Amazon, and I'm so proud that we didn't have any negative estimation and stars. And can you imagine, for somebody who is coming from nowhere, from the middle of nowhere, how it is important, and how we really believe that it is our huge. So that's how we have champignon and oyster. And also, Alexander, when you touch that theme, I communicate with our local organic farmers who use our spent compost after
Mm-hmm.
cultivation of the mushroom like a soil supplement and fertilizer. And then I realized that they are struggling with the market, and they do not have enough market capacities. And then we said, okay, guys, we are going to collect all extra quantities of vegetables what you have. We are doing here dehydration. Dehydration is very innovative approach where all nutrition elements and vitamins remain like in fresh product. We mix it, and that's how that mix what we are now selling together with our mushroom start to exist. So this is the network of small farmers here in Serbia with whom we try to deal based on the fair price, based on the fair game, based on everything. So that's what we are doing right now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you have consumers in another place, in this case America, that actually is willing to buy Serbian direct from the farmers,
Yeah.
then
Yes.
then you have a business model. I mean, that's that's good. And yeah, perfect. So Sonny, but Ivanka, so you're a mushroom farmer, but you have a microbiologist background. You're now an entrepreneur. You're now an entrepreneur teaching other mushroom farmers, but also teaching your local farmers how to get to the global market without a retailer in between.
Yeah, that's how it's happened. And also, Alexander, I want to say something very honest. All that is only result of my struggling to survive in entrepreneurship. It is nothing because what I planned. It is nothing what I knew in advance.
Mm-hmm.
It is nothing what that was the, also we here have a two innovative model for oyster mushroom substrate production where we totally maybe you remember that. I don't know when you had been here last time. It was very long time if you had ever been. And that was we totally exclude heating and burning and CO2 emission from the technology, because normally substrate for oyster mushroom farming is making based on the people believe that if they boiling that material, that cellulose material, that they will have a super good substrate, which is nonsense. But then we totally exclude that burning and heating and whatever, and I use only my microbiological background to create that innovative technology. And that innovative technology, first of all, provided for us opportunity that we decrease the price of substrate production, because with this energy cost, it would not be possible to survive. Second, I am generally a person, and you know that that I am strongly against hypocrisy, and we are all surrounded hypocrisy. Everybody is talking about sustainability and nobody does work about that. So everybody talking about super good, healthy production of mushroom and then put everything in some chamber and burning the fire and create CO2 worse than that worse cannot be. So I said, listen, if we want to talk about truly nice and sustainable, and if we want to be really, really honest and straight in this sustainability approach, what all of us are talking about, let's do something which will make a benefit. And I am not saying that it is not also with financial benefit, but it is also with serious environmental benefit, because we totally exclude CO2 emission from our technological process. And based on that, and based on those innovations, we really can say that we are truly sustainable. And that's something which people learn here when they come in my school, because we are open source. And I really don't care about the patent know-how and blah, blah, because for me, it is just a piece of paper. Because if people admire you, they will mention where they learned about that knowledge. If they don't admire, you can sign 3 zillion contracts and nothing will happen. So in that sense, I am very glad that, and all what you say, that this and that, when you put on the paper for my 35 years long career, it looks really super good. But you need to know, Alexander, that all what is developed here and where we are struggling today for is only because my will and my wish was to maintain this my small company and to create the good life and reasonable good life for my team here and myself. I like to live nice.
But in that way, I mean, if you find ways to inspire other people, that then itself becomes a business model as a revenue stream, because they want to learn from the teacher, and
Yeah.
that is normal. Most listeners here on the podcast don't know a lot, and especially if you think about mushrooms.
No?
Could you help us what it takes to grow mushrooms? What kind of substrates do you need, and why do you need certain types of substrate? And what can you do with the waste stream after you've grown the mushrooms? Because then that has to
Yeah.
find its way also. So it's a small explanation of what it takes to grow mushrooms.
Small lesson about the mushroom growing. Yeah, with the pleasure. Okay, the mushrooms is independent kingdom. Like you said at the beginning, very much underrated, very much even science, especially. And I cannot say kingdom fungi is reasonable, very welcome, and very well and considered maybe very important. Thanks of the penicillium, thanks of the molds, thanks of different thanks of yeast at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are talking about the mushroom, first of all, I would like to give a little lesson to your auditorium, and please, I hope that they will not be angry on me. Mushrooms are just a little group of the fungi in among million varieties of fungi. Mushrooms are relatively small group which create the fruit body, what we can see by our naked eye. So this is the mushroom. Mushroom is something which creates the fruit body, and mushroom is created just a fruit body, just a mushroom like a shape is created by specific and small group of fungi which belong to only one class or subclass. I will not go in those details because then it is still very unclear, but in one group which create those fruit bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
those fruit bodies are created in the nature in order that these fungi survive. So, in the case that everything is super good, our fungi, like oyster, would never create the fruit body because it will continue to grow like a mycelium.
Oh,
This is
really?
the network. Yes, it is the network of the cells which are growing on the substrate, and substrate can be cellulose-based material, like for those varieties who I like to know, who I like to call hard workers mushroom. Hard workers mushrooms are shiitake, lentinusedodes, Pleurotus ostratus oyster, Ganoderma lucidum, maitake, lion mane, turkey tail, all those mushrooms, fungi, what we can see and what we grow very easily, this is the group. Those mushrooms belong to the group of hard workers, and they do like only cellulose.
Mm-hmm.
They are capable to digest cellulose by themselves and to use cellulose to make a food for themselves based on the cellulose, eat that and grow. And they don't care where that cellulose is coming from. And that is the reason why we can grow oyster, on example, on straw, on corn cobs, on coffee waste, on everything what is in our surrounding. And that is the secret. It is not a serious, it is not nuclear atomic energy. You know, it is very simple things. It is pure biology. So for that hard workers mushroom, they are in nature growing on the logs. Only what we need to offer is cellulose. Most often it is the straw,
Mm-hmm.
but can be all those varieties of the materials which contain the cellulose. But please, when I already give a little lesson to auditorium, I would like to say waste, cellulose waste, is something which contains cellulose. So branches, roots, corn cobs, corn plants, but it is not the kitchen waste. It is not organic waste what we
Mm-hmm.
have in our kitchen, because in that material we do not have a cellulose, but we have in the coffee waste. On the other side, champignon is lazy and spoiled. Champignon white button has not capacity to digest cellulose,
Hmm.
and we must to cook food for champignon. Cooking the food for champignon is specific microbiological process which is named composting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reason why small mushroom entrepreneurs cannot use champignon in their growing room, cannot cultivate champignon, because they cannot make the substrate for the champignon growing by themselves. And again, and that's what I am going to finish with biology, please take into the consideration that composting in champignon process is not the same composting what we use with our kitchen waste. Term is same, word is same, composting, but those are two different processes. And please don't even try to cultivate a champignon on the kitchen waste. You will not succeed at all. So that is we can cultivate our mushrooms, oyster, shiitake, ganoderma, maitake, turkey tail, all those which are most popular
Mm-hmm.
on cellulose. Cellulose is main raw material is straw, but all which contain it can be a very good raw material for our cultivation.
Yeah, what I know in the Netherlands is that for the champignons they use horse shit together with straw, and that is
Uh,
sort of the substrate for champignons. But I don't know.
I will tell you the horse manure. It is the horse, yes, pee and poo and straw had been originally substrate for the champignon cultivation because the champignon is only one European variety. All other cultivated mushrooms are coming from the Far East. Only
Mm-hmm.
champignon and its cultivation start in Paris on the post offices where the horses had been rested.
Oh,
They,
really?
yes, and there champignons start to be cultivated. That's why it is the name Champignon de Paris. That is the original name of the white button mushroom. But in recent time, because of the a lack of the horses, what I don't think that it is true, but we still believe that there is no horse shit, horse manure in surrounding. And in the mid of 20th century, scientists created that so-called synthetic compost for champignon cultivation, and it is made based on the straw and chicken litter. And
Hmm.
chicken litter and straw is coming into huge industrial processes and become the substrate for the champignon cultivation. Today, only very few farms, on example, my little farm here in Belgrade, cultivated the champignon on the originally horse manure because thanks of that, we may create really good and high quality organic food.
Because and that also means that. But does it entail that the quality of the cellulose also impacts the quality of the mushroom and its mycelium?
I will respond you with this. Listen, in a very fine details, it can be applied. That these can be applied. On example, when you have a lot of heavy metals, when you have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
chemicals, then honestly speaking, fungi or mushrooms are also very sensitive. So
Yeah.
I had that experience. And first of all, when you have a lot of bad quality of the raw material, mycelium will not grow. So there is no danger that we will have a bad quality of the mushrooms because at the end of the day, this material is even mycelium doesn't want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we have, let's say, heavy metals, if we have some poisons which mushrooms survive,
Mm-hmm.
then we may have a danger. Then in mycelium collect that poisons from the straw, from the cellulose, and in the later stage, it also accumulate in the fruit body, which of course is not good nor for us nor for anybody who use such a fruit body. But Alexander, it is like any other sort of the agriculture. You can we can discuss until tomorrow about all what's going in our agriculture. So
No, no,
more
but
or
it's
less, it is the same.
yeah, yeah, and but it's always good to emphasize that if the crop and if the food you're using for cultivation is clean and let's say biological or agroforestry grown, then you know that your fruit or vegetable will be good. And we tend to at least now we tend to forget that we grow something for one certain purpose, and then we forget that we can actually repurpose that waste stream from that agricultural industry,
Yeah.
and that creates all complexities because moving away from chemicals, pesticides, is a challenge for most growers because we've got used to that, and finding biological substitutes is of course a challenge in itself for those entrepreneurs.
Yes, it is a challenge, but also I can't talk about any other culture, but I can say about the mushrooms. It is the challenge, but also it is very important to have to be I do not expect that every single farmer who is growing the mushroom that he become that he has a PH and in mycology. It is not the point. No, no, no. It is not the point. And I am very realistic. But I think that people has to understand what they are growing. And I have that experience here for all these ages, how people are coming in that my school, and I'm doing a lot of really trainings. And what I can say, I'm such a sort of person, I'm very open, and I really try to convince them. But it is very interesting. It is something in mentality, global mentality. First of all, people much more believe in chemical industry and in poison than in biology. That is obvious. Then people simply does not understand what they are growing. And
Hmm?
when especially and instead to understand and to change paradigm and look in that organism and what their its demand, they are just trying to repeat step by step some things, and without absolutely understanding why they have to do that and how they have to do that. And then normally, if you have something which is mechanically repeated on one side and one poor organism who is
Mm-hmm.
struggling for the his rights, it is like a people. Then in between you have a lot of enemies, diseases, and everything. So instead, that growers is focused on the biology of that mushroom and understand how she is growing, why she is growing, what is the trigger, what is not the trigger, what she needs and how she needs. I don't say that the diseases will not appear. Absolutely not. But I am absolutely sure, and I know that, not sure, I know that I'm working here on that way, that such a way of doing things will be much, much more convenient, and that the demands for poisons and different pesticides and everything will be extremely lower. And this is the point. We've Alexander forgotten what we are cultivated. And
Yeah.
I think it is the same in all agriculture sectors. So that is maybe I am too, I am, but I really believe that we have to turn a paradigm upside down and see, listen, this and what we are growing, is it wheat or is it just some uh, uh, pillar for some grain? If it is pillar for some grain, then you can do whatever you want. If it is wheat, then that wheat has to have. So it is, but in the end of the day, I have to tell you, my mushroom had the same quality and even before organic certification.
Mm-hmm.
Organic certification had been just a bureaucracy work, just in order to confirm that our quality is super good. I want to say that if you understand what you are doing, and this, my network of my colleagues who and my trainees who now are doing the mushroom business around the world, they know that if you are looking in this what you are growing, then the demand for the all poisons is significantly less.
Yes, and then you actually have a good, healthy mushroom everybody wants, and then sales
Yeah,
moves for itself forward,
yeah.
and it comes to you. What did you learn on your international project? I know you have also been to Africa and Asia and even to South America, showing existing entrepreneurs, but also new entrepreneurs and existing farmers the benefits of growing mushrooms on their own waste streams. Could you share with us some of those projects you've done, just to show that what the capacity is from a residue, from a cellulosic
Yeah.
stream towards mushrooms, and also the local community impact you can have with that.
Thank you for asking me that. This is this is not one of, it is the most, I would say, important and most not sensitive in sense of sensitive, most touchable, I don't know, most emotional. Okay, most emotional aspect, I would say. I told you that's how I told you on the beginning how I start with my mushroom. And then thanks of that, I gotten in touch with the Zeri Emission Research Initiative in 1999. Thanks of that utilization of the spent substrate after mushroom cultivation to in the agriculture sector. We use that as a ruminant feeding, because before you asked me something about that, and just to finish to respond, we didn't respond how to use this spent substrate after. So it can be used as a soil supplement, as a ruminant feeding, and now we are trying to extract the chitin, and this will be our really, I think,
Just to
yeah.
get back, the leftover, so the spent substrate. So when you harvest the mushrooms and
Mm-hmm.
the mycelium is finished,
Mm-hmm.
you can feed animals with that.
Yeah, yeah, ruminant cows
Yeah,
and sheep.
and
I don't. Yes.
and how is that? Is that because of the cellulose of the mycelium, or a combination of both?
It is because of the combination of both. We had done a lot of, not I, by my colleague from that animal feed science had done a huge investigation, because cellulose at the beginning is cellulose, and after the mycelium growing and after the mushroom growing, cellulose is destroyed. Cellulose is devastated. So at the end of this of the growing cycle, you have a protein which is coming from mycelium, which is inside still. You have a residual of cellulose, which remain. You have a sugar which mushroom had created but did not use. You have humidity, and you have material which is ideal, like a component for silage and component for the cows and
Mm-hmm.
sheep feed. And please, I would like to be very straight and very clear. We do not say that it is superfood for cows, but we say if you already have a spent substrate with the proper quantity and procedure, on very simple way, you can replace part of your animal feed. On that way, make your animal breeding process cheaper, because you use something which is nothing, which is waste, instead of something what you have to buy. And the consequence of that way of nutrition on the cows is absolutely zero. So there is no negative consequence on application of that spent substrate in the meal of the cows and sheep. And people who want to learn about that, they can go on our website, and there to find manual for small mushroom entrepreneurs. And there is a chapter where where they can find more details, because it is the subject of total separate interview. We can talk about that very long. So that is the point, that after the substrate, when mushroom is over, then this which remains can be offered to the cows and sheep, just pure or in silage. And when you offer that to the cows, they can eat that happy, without any negative consequence, neither on milk production, neither on quality production of milk, and nor their body weight and gain and all that parameters which is measured. So this is about cows and everything. So when we have done that investigation, it was super important for the world. In that moment, nobody did talk about circular economy, but that is the pure circular economy. And that's how I got in touch with Zeri and my dear friend and my dear mentor and colleague, Mr. Ginter Pauli. And it was 2000 when, in collaboration with Africa University, under the umbrella of UNEP, we had created the project of using the mushroom cultivation as a tool in poverty reduction, the hunger reduction in Africa. So we realized that project at the beginning of 2000. And later on, one of the girls who had been trained in that time in 2001 to 3, Mr. Ginter Pauli had adopt her. Now she is his, and also I start to be her auntie, which I'm super proud on. Yes, because today she is one wonderful lady, and her project, and thanks of her and my collaboration with her, and thanks of mushrooms. Please, it is on the first place. Thanks of the mushrooms. I think that up to now she trained more than 10,000 women in South Africa, in Zimbabwe. Now it is in Mozambique and in all that south part under Sahara's region of Africa. And I think that we save with mushrooms a lot of children and a lot of lives. Only thanks of the opportunity to use available materials. In the Africa case, it was some sort of water hyacinth. It is some sort of the plant, also straw, also corn. And thanks of that, our approach, we, for the last 20 years, I think that we had saved a lot of lives. Of course, later on, another project in Africa came, but I am super proud that we had been the first one. So that's how it's happened. Also, we had a wonderful experience in India. It is different. But in India, thanks to also some network, I gotten in touch and I trained the lady who belongs to very high class in India, very high, but wonderful lady who wanted to do something for the community. And beside of all her wealth and perfect, lifestyle, she decided to create the NGO, and which mission was a link between children from that high class and private school, and let me allow to say lower class from the public school. Because she trusts that only in communication with the children, in children, if the children start to communicate, they will continue to communicate, and that all that serious differentiation, which, okay, it is not only about the wealth, it is about the attitude, it is about the selfishness, it is about the proudness, it is about underrating, it is not only about the money, it is about the attitude of life. So she recognized that, so we train her community how to grow the mushroom to help not that most poor part of the citizens. We had trained those higher, let's say, class, because then they went into that favelas, or how those very poor villages looks like, and trained the mothers of the children how to grow those mushrooms, and in all that training, it is not only about the mushroom, it is about communication, sharing. They just try to, or it was on 2016. So she is very active, and right now, so that's how a mushroom, which is very simple technology, it is very simple, it can be applied in under the most simplest conditions, thanks of that, thanks of the simple, cheap technology, we can have a good food, but also we may have a tool for overbridging all that historical gaps, like I don't think that anywhere on the world gap is deeper than in India. So this is how I use. That's my wonderful experience of using a growing mushroom as in some really serious positive social movement.
Yeah, and the good thing about mushrooms, you can grow them all year round. It's not specific to a certain
Yeah.
season. And they blossom after 8 weeks. What was it? 6 weeks, 8 weeks. You can harvest them.
You can harvest after for oyster what I promote and promote because it is the most simple one. You can harvest after 4 weeks. You harvest 1 month and then you finish and then you start again. And for that period of time, you have a very good fresh food, very healthy one, very good for our stomach, very acceptable for our organism. And I also will be so happy that as a message of our talk, we leave to the people that listen, there is no mushroom which can really make something negative to our body, and it is only about marketing that maybe Lentunesedodes oscillitake is super mushroom and
Mm-hmm.
champignon is not super mushroom. You have in champignon also compound which is named agaritin, which really has a very positive impact on our immune system. Also, you have oyster, which can be very good in increasing the iron content in our body, in increasing the vitamin D influence. But
Mm-hmm.
please don't believe that it will be miracle that now you are eating oyster and then you will have increasing. No, but just if you use a little bit of better food, don't believe that only you need to run after some expensive cordyceps and lion man and now everybody's only about talking about that. No, all varieties of edible mushrooms have a serious positive impact on our organism. Only, of course, it is not applicable for the people who have allergy. If you have allergy, then you cannot eat it.
Yeah, well, so if, talking about that, would you recommend that we should eat mushrooms once every week, like we used to eat fish? Like, so in Dutch we say there's this saying that on Wednesday you eat fish and on Thursday you eat meat, and so the whole week is sort of assigned. But you could, I mean, I was and then because also we are now in a, like, let's say, protein transition. We have to move away from meat, just because of the ecological impact it has on the Amazon and all the other areas. So then a natural transition would be to legumes, but also to mushrooms.
Yes, but also let's be fair enough and let's be open enough. When you use the mushrooms, you have theoretically or essential amino acid available for our organism. But unfortunately, some of those amino acids cannot be absorbed by our organism and stomach because of the fact that a lot of some of those amino acids are part of the chitin. Chitin is the constitutive element of the mushroom. It is like
Mm-hmm.
chitin in insects, in snails, and cancer. And then those amino acids from chitin, our body cannot use
Okay.
because we cannot digest 100% of the mushroom. But good news is that if you eat mushroom, on example with spinach, or this is very good receipt. I am going to share that with you. This is super good. When you have a good champignon, very good one, like mine, but very good. And then you can make slices and add baby spinach, fresh
Mm-hmm.
baby spinach, not boiled, but fresh baby spinach. Maybe you can add egg, boiled egg or not, a little bit of the acid, the vinegar, and whatever you like. And if you mix it very well, put a little bit of bread, you have a perfect, super healthy meal for the lunch. Because with that mushroom, when you eat that spinach, spinach, excuse me, maybe for my pronunciation, but it is our word, word for that, but spinach, you know what I mean? Then if when you eat that together, then this spinach is much better. It is much better used in our organism because our stomach is working much harder in order to digest the fungi, the mushroom. So when you use it together, it means that all compounds or all
Mm-hmm.
components of food is digested much better if you use that with the mushrooms and with the fungi. And you can eat fungi according your taste, according your preferences, and that's
But you
very well.
can you eat them raw or do you have to bake them first?
Independ. In general, most of our cultivated mushroom can be eaten raw.
Oh, really?
Also,
Hmm. Okay. I always cook them because somewhere
no,
I
no, it's not necessary. No necessary. No.
okay. So another something you can eat raw. I somebody told me that eating raw vegetables is also good for you, and I never imagined that you could eat raw mushrooms.
Yes, you can. You can
Okay.
without any problem. But please, of course, it is everything is up to the, in China, I had visited one mushroom region a long time ago in the middle of nowhere. And the local party in that time organized a big reception because lady from Europe came. And the only meal what they offer was had been based on mushroom. But how they offer, they made some, let's say, like a Swedish table, like
Mm-hmm.
long table, and they placed I can't tell you how many varieties of edible mushrooms on that table, and you can choose the mushroom, you can choose the sauce, and if you want, you had opportunity to cook it on your place around the table like fondue. Like fondue. But instead of oil or cheese, in those little pots had been water. But it was only if you like. So it means that all those mushrooms, and trust me, Alexander, I think that there had been, let's say, hundreds of different varieties could be eaten
Hmm.
raw. So it is not that I invented it is already existing in
Yeah,
China.
yeah, yeah, but that is. I mean, it's great you mentioned China, or at least make it better Asia, because there is mushrooms are there something that is embedded in the culture. It's not in the Western world. It's like
Yes,
mushrooms. What do you do? One of them. It's like you only find them when you go out to a forest and you collect them themselves. But in Asia, it's much more part of the diet, and I still
yes.
wonder why.
Oh, I don't know. I think that it is the cultural inheritance. It is the cultural. It is the way of. It is the question why they using sticks instead of fork and knives. You know why? Well, that is different culture. This is everything is different, and this is so. That is the that's the I think that in our part of the globe, mushrooms more often had been connected with something negative, with the poison, with the death, with the
Hmm.
problems. And on the Far East, much more connected. It is really think of the culture. I'm not sure that we can.
I just realized when you just were talking. Of course, in Asia they also have a huge, let's say, herbal and health mentality on what nature can bring. And I mean,
Yeah.
if and they know that mushrooms have a health benefit, so I assume that there is a connection with. And then you also have to eat mushrooms, good, which is good for which it's good for your
Yes.
diet and therefore your health.
Yes, Alexander, it is total different way mindset.
Yeah.
It was the mindset where acupunctura had been developed, where
Yeah.
here in West Side we are still afraid of that little things. But in there, acupunctura is something which create opportunity for life. So I would like to, Alexander, I think that it is also something which, like we are talking about the nature. I think that also it is the natural that we consider that we are different, not in negative nor positive. Don't understand
Mm-hmm.
me wrong. I don't want just to not to promote, not to decrease, but definitely we are different cultures. We are different people. You cannot behave. You, a person who travel around the globe, and I know that, and and you put your nose in the most, I think, dark and most light points of this globe. I'm absolutely sure. And for the other reason, I think that you could see that people are living different, and we have to create a world where those differences are admired and not put everybody under the same cap. So
Yeah.
if China using something for 4,000 years, it is super good. But listen, we are not Chinese. We develop our life here in this part of the world where we had different habits, different way of life. It is super to use a mushroom as a component of the food, and it is of course very useful. But I don't want to that we say now please go to with the mushroom and just avoid all sort of the meat.
Mm.
And why? Well, and also this story about the protein based plant-based meat and everything. Listen, we created the farms which destroyed the nature. So instead to promote that plant-based meat, I would like to promote some more natural, friendly cultivation and breeding of those animals, because those animals exist millions and millions years on our planet, and not millions, but thousands. And
Mm-hmm.
why we make something artificial and destroy something which is natural? Of course, that all that huge fun. It is the same like mushrooms. I am a person I can tell you, we created the separate stream, independent stream of mushroom cultivation, which is not a boutique production, a rural farm, urban farming, what you know, based on the coffee waste. It is not a huge industry, because in huge industry, like I told already on the beginning, you have in focus industry, machinery,
Mm-hmm.
layer, conveyor, software, hardware, blah, blah. And then you lost the point, what you are going to do with all that industry.
Yeah.
It is the same. So let's turn upside down paradigm, and let's take a look on the organism what we cultivate. And then we will not have that challenge to make plant-based meat. And what is the plant-based meat? Listen, it is again something what in the case that it start to be promoted very much, you will need to have conservants, you will need to have something to protect, to make a longer shelf life. And again, what we have, again, the same, what we had in the beginning with the animals. So I think that this world has to go in more simple solutions, and not to make fairy tales and to make. So I agree that a modern world is. But listen, I'm going to say, I told you before, we want to decrease globally poverty, to
Mm-hmm.
decrease the hunger. I I'm asking you, is it better that we provide, like we have done in Africa, training and little bit of the mycelium to those poor people who are struggling with the hunger, or to give them some artificial plant-based meat? Listen, I think that it is better to give them something which is natural, to give them some tool to grow something and have some natural things, than to give them that synthetic things, which in the end of the day must contain some poison. Not because I like it, but because it is Everything which is total artificial at the end of the day has to be somehow conserved. And that is, I am not against that. It is super good. It is great. But we have much more simple solution for the problem and for the environment and for the CO2 emission and everything. So I am not against the progress, just opposite. I am only, like Ginter Powell said in that Blue Economy, I am just for the reasonable progress and the
Hmm.
progress with sense.
Yeah, and if you keep it local, you cascade the value stream locally, and you don't need to industrialize.
Yeah,
And and that's what you see. At least here in the Netherlands, there's a whole debate about the milk industry, the dairy industry, which has grown very big here in the Netherlands, and the farmers had to grow bigger, bigger, bigger. And now you're hearing the stories about organic farmers, biological farmers who will actually are starting to earn more than the industrial farmers
yeah.
because they start to close the cycle, less input costs, better products, better value, and then we're moving back to that economy where good inputs become good outputs. So what you give to an animal or to somebody in the kingdom, then it turns out to be then it becomes high quality, full, nutritious, and the waste stream, as you mentioned, I didn't know that you can give it back to the cows,
Yes, of course. Yes,
and suddenly the circle is closed.
yes, I suppose that you already know that. I'm sorry, because it is a very popular story, but it is true. And then when you take a look, and it is only, Alexander, as I'm going older and older, as long as I'm going older, I am much more. Yes, it is true. I am absolutely more sure that the core problem of all that environmental issue and production things is the lack of the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated how people does know elementary things. And it is not about only mushroom, it is in general. And then instead, we had 2 weeks ago some story about circularity. It was also some broadcasted story, and I said, listen, now everybody's talking about circularity, circularity. It is science. It is, my goodness. It is now the and what is the circularity? Every single agriculture farm in the middle of Balkan here before the Second World War and after Second World War had been the circular production. Everything, because all what they had used from one, it used the horse and manure like a fertilizer, then use the plant for the cows feeding, then use there is the all in old fashioned farm you did not have the waste, and it is the logical way of doing things.
Hmm.
And now we create, oh, I'm absolutely, it is super okay. And I am super proud that my farm is circular. But it is only logical consequences of the understanding of the field. So I think that we need to learn a little bit more, I suppose.
But that also means that you're well connected to your suppliers for the straw and other cellulistic material, because then you mean it's sort of like your value chain or supply chain is talking to each other. You know which farmers are supplying
Yeah,
your material, so you know the way they produce the
yeah,
material,
yeah, yeah,
which makes it transparent, so you know they're not screwing around. So you what they deliver what they promise, and you can see it on the production of your mushrooms that they do what they should supposed to be doing.
yeah.
But that also implies that having a transparent supply chain
Yes,
means that everybody is moving with no, with the flow, with the economy. If demand goes up or not, and it's like it's all connected.
yes. Yes, yes, it is all connected. And it is something which, what I want, it is all connected. And something what I learned from my life. If you want to do that on an artificial way, if you want to communicate, to convince, to ensure, to discuss, and if you want to push somebody to do something, to join your network, to be with you, to do, oh, it's absolutely waste of the time. It is disaster. You would never, I would never, I had never succeed. And I will tell you, for the people, maybe it will be interesting. On 2001 one or first or second, we had here the political changing, and we said, and I, like a Dutch student and like a Dutch Holland student with a big network, we really now we trust that now, wow, we will do all the in positive impact thanks of that to agriculture sector in Serbia. And I had spent 5 6 years of my time and money and energy, and my result is zero. Trust me, because if you want to push somebody to change his attitude, that is waste of the time. It is absolutely nonsense. But if you are doing what you are doing naturally, people who share with you the same approaches, like you mentioned, those our supplier people who supply us, who delivered our mushrooms, who are selling my fresh mushroom in the downtown. Now I'm waiting for my and supplier and buyer, because he's our supplier of vegetable, and also he has a very good spot in the green market, organic green market in Belgrade. And on Friday afternoon, he is coming he is coming at my place. He collect our mushroom. He buy from us that mushroom and deliver, of course, in on the green market. So this is something which is really live. It is nothing huge, but it is live. So, but we did not invite him. We only recognized, and he recognized us like a people with whom he can share, he can be colleague, he can do this or that. So my message is that you cannot convince huge farmer that he is now going to do agriculture on the way how his grandfather had done, or organic way, which is the same. But maybe his children and his next generation will recognize all benefit of that, and maybe create some sort of the network and be very good in that. So that's how we collaborate here. And I would like to emphasize something which is very what your auditorium and our listener, people who are listening us has to know. It is Balkan, and being on Balkan is very specific. It
Mm-hmm.
is the conservatism is not only women and men and that gender approach, but definitely this is the conservative. The it is the hard atmosphere, and people are very stubborn, and they cannot you cannot convince the people by talking. You only can convince them by doing things. And that's what I am very, and that's how we create this our network. I don't say that it was always successful. Oh, we had have a different experience, but most of the time, the long-lasting nice relations remain only if people are sharing the similar ideas. Unfortunately, it is not a big cycle, especially not in the recent time here on Balkan. But there is a critical, let's say, number of my colleagues, collaborator who share the similar idea, and in line with that is respond on your question. They supply us with the regular quality. They are looking forward to the good quality. So that's how things are going here.
Yeah, and that's as a result, the collaboration creates its own ecosystem and its own
Yeah.
revenue stream. And if
Yes.
everybody
Yes. Yes.
earns the margin they find reasonable, then everybody's happy.
Yes, and
But
it is the only way.
it's interesting the way you talk about this collaboration with your supply network, and I just realized you talked about mushrooms as a maybe as a human being.
Yeah,
Some are hard workers, some are lazy.
yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What I mean, for most people, organisms, especially for fungi, which most of the time stays under the ground, and sometimes we see them mushrooming. Can you explain a little bit what is your relationship with mushrooms, and how do you interact with them? Are they actually human beings, and are some stubborn or not? Of how does that go?
I came to no, I'm not crazy. Don't think, and I'm not, and I am very, I am just very personal to say. I'm a very realistic woman, and I am very stick with the ground. And very often I am in confrontation with somebody who talk about sustainability, go in total different direction, and then I had some experience when we approached that Amazon. Amazon is something what had been must in my into like it was option for our trade business. And I personally, I'm very old-fashioned woman, and I had never buy something from online. But listen, this is, and then when we decide to go on Amazon as the biggest market on the world, then some of our people from our Blue Economy Network told me, you are again, we are against that. It is total against. Listen, that's what I don't like, that exclusivity, now you are going to do, you are not this. So it is also about the mushrooms. The reason why I'm saying she and he and lazy, and then, Alexander, here I'm doing education of the people who has no clue about the mushrooms. And I believe that as you know more about some certain subject, then you are able to explain about that subject on a very simple way. If you don't know something, no, if somebody doesn't know something, then he make a complication. He is making science. He is making using the word. So in order to, and I told you, people are coming, and I need to convince them that they have to understand that it is the life,
Mm-hmm.
that it is something which is living. And when they know that it is living, then they will adopt that my attitude that they have to take a care about the organism and not about the hardware, software, spraying, sprayer, and other things. So, in all that 15 years of my trying to convince, to ensure, to share, to make the mushrooms closer, because people are very much scary. And you need to know, I need to be very friendly with my trainees, and very friendly in all aspects, because my school is costly, not costly very much, but we charge the fee, and we are in Balkan, and people are coming most of the time very first in Serbia. They are listening from radio, and we desperately want to make the life here for them very nice, very friendly, very comfortable. So in line with that, I also try to use that little bit strange word for the mushroom, just, and now it's habit. Now I don't think about that. That
Now
that's why. So
the reason why I'm asking that is that there are growers, for instance, in vineyards that they are playing classical music for their
uh,
grapes. I know that there are dairy farmers who are having classical or rock music for their cows, and that makes me curious because we are part of the fungi kingdom because it's on animals, and it's on plants, it's everywhere. So if the resonation works for ruminants and humans and wine, how would that then be for fungi? Will they be more happy when they hear classical music, or some of species would like rock music? Because
I don't-
fungi sense also have senses about their surroundings, where they are and how things move, and they understand where there's light and where there's no light. So just
Yes.
wondering. I read a really good book about. It's called Plant Revolution, about from an Italian scientist, and he described how plants actually can sense their surrounding. It goes on a much slower time scale, but they know that something is around them, and they can sense it, and they have all their senses. And it's like, why? I mean, mushrooms were the predecessor of humans and animals and plants. So I would not be surprised
I
if
also
if
would
if
not.
mushrooms have a certain species have a certain how do you call that, Forker, certain preference
Uh-huh.
for certain type of music, or when you talk angry against them, they're like, okay, but then I'm not fruiting as much.
I don't know, really. I don't know that, and maybe unfortunately, this aspect is not elaborated very well in the mushroom world. But you never know. Maybe in the future, maybe some young generation will take a care about that, and we will discover the best music. I hope that it will be some reasonable accepted also for us.
No, because we talk about mushrooms, which is actually the fruit, and it's the same like the horticulture, the greenhouses. They talk about the tomatoes or the cucumbers, but they do not talk about the plants. And in the case of
No,
in the case
no,
of
no.
fungi, you actually should have be talking about the mycelium, which is the
It's
core.
growing, yes,
Yeah,
which is the vegetative phase, yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, but still, we do not have that experience with mushrooms. But I have another experience with mushrooms, which is much more useful for us. During the 90s, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I had here in the second part when during all that wars and everything here on Balkan, unfortunately, a lot of hospitals had been short with the food and good food and everything. And it was one here existed one great NGO leaded by and financed, that is interesting, financed by Catholic Church. And whoever knows the origin of our war would be very much surprised that because it was in fact ethical wars.
Mm-hmm.
We are Orthodox, but the most serious financing and only one financing which had been able because of that political situation had came from Catholic Church. So that is, yeah, that's very interesting, just like a fact. And then, thanks of that funds and NGO who applied that, we created the mushroom cultivation growing units in almost all hospitals for the mental diseases in during that time,
Mm-hmm.
because they had been most attached by the all negativity and all negative influence, and they also had some spares. So we had in, I think, 5 or 6 hospitals in the underground rooms, mushroom cultivation growing units. They cultivated champignon, and from time to time, ill people who had been capable to work, and you know, sometimes they have even that is the like a workshops. It is the part of the treatment,
Mm-hmm.
of the cure. It is the part of the cure that different. They had work. They had harvested on watering or whatever. And I had been learned. I teach them, not them, but they're the people who had lead that little project, and it lasts 2 3 years. And then I have to tell you something. Doctors from those hospitals, and it was not a small number, told me that those people, most often they had have a depression, you know, that negative. They had been also under the stress because of all that terrible things, that they recognize significant improvement in their health. and it has a fantastic positive impact on their health because after that work in the growing unit, because the reason for that positive impact of work in the growing unit had been the fact that mushrooms are growing fast, and
Mm-hmm.
they could recognize for a very short period of time a significant and obvious result of their activities. And thanks of that, they told me, listen, that's my personal experience. Doctor told me that they had been fascinated how that negative depression people, all how it looks like, they had been so the reaction of work in the mushroom growing unit had been so positive. So I was super proud on that. That was so interesting story, and I use every single chance to talk about that because I know, trust me, when I am now bad, when I am down, when I am gray, and when with the million problems what I have because entrepreneurship in this country is right, I mean, it's disaster. And when I am negative, then the most important energy I soak from those mushrooms, because you see the fast result, and this is for all of us. Fast result. I have one older colleagues here who is saying, who telling me, Ivka, they call me like that, Ivanka, we need one success. All of us in our life need one success in order to be back on track when we are down. So with mushroom, that little success you can see very fast. And that is the reason why I think that it is very good that we cultivate it, and of course to eat, because without eating we cannot
Mm.
producing.
No, no, true, true. That is the same when we work with plants, and I think even with animals, that in connection with nature in itself, and it does strange things to us. We have no idea how that energy is being negative energy is being absorbed, and we're getting the good energy from nature. But that's good to hear that also works in that way,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
people are happy to. Once you work with nature, I don't know. I think most people like to be in nature, and in what way the capacity brings. I mean, it can be walking around, it can be cultivating, it can be eating. I mean, even eating good food is a can be a can be meditative. What I've heard
yes,
from
yes,
people, when you eat really good food with really good company,
yeah,
people tend to you know, get mindful and open up, and stress
yes,
diminishes. So that
yes,
so that's I mean that's and I mean what you mentioned before with all the processed food, and now the we're now going plant based in the same way as we did before. I mean, with a lot of additives, which you could question. Okay, we are now moving plant based, but it's still processed. So how good is that for you? Or with meat now cultivated from cells. Um, so the question then arises: okay, if what if we move to a more plant based, or a non, let's say a non food non animal based diet, what will that mean for us, and how what kind of role would mushrooms take in there? That's the question that I sort of iterate
uh,
towards. Because for me, mushrooms is still associated. You get a picobello, which is one of those big mushrooms, and then they put spinach or cheese in it, and then they call this is a vegetarian dish. It's like, whoa, okay, I know you can eat much healthier and much more fun vegetarian food from mushrooms instead of what they present.
yeah,
Um, and what I feel, at least in the Western world, when we're talking about the let's say the protein benefits of mushrooms, that our gastronomy in the Western world is still not sophisticated in a way that it appreciates mushrooms.
Yes, yes, and it is absolutely, you have a fully right, and it is not on West. I mean, in all our part. I will give you example from this region. During the 90s, in consumption of mushroom had been increased 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and in the most worst period of economy situation of that region, consumption of mushroom increased 3 times. And we said, listen now, and then if you take on a first glance on the surface, you will say, oh, people start to eat very healthy, which is nonsense. No, people start to eat much worse because they eat a mushroom inside of the pizza, pies, burek, croissants, and all that fat and unhealthy things. And if
Mm-hmm.
you add mushrooms in it, thanks of that way of nutrition, fast food, bakeries, consumption of mushrooms start to increase. So the true real sense of using a mushroom and fungi in our nutrition is to in fact create a really good food and really change the attitude towards the food. So Alexander, maybe I will disappoint some of our auditorium, but I think that man has to eat everything because by biology,
Mm-hmm.
and in biology, we are carnivores. We eat, our organism is dedicated, but it means that we have to eat and vegetable and meat and mushrooms and fruit and milk independent of our evolutionary state. And that is, of course, if somebody has no lactose, of course that he doesn't want to use the milk. And this is normal. It is the old fashioned example of genetic of the population, what I even learned on my study, because of that is a just consequence of the lifestyle. But on the other side, I believe that our Western medicine and Western cuisine, excuse me, Western cuisine, Western, I mean, all this, what we consider, need to be more creative with our food. And when you use the mushroom, when you use not to use only, I am joking very often here in Serbia, the best using of champignon is in burek. Burek is a specific pie. It is Turkey word, very fat and unhealthy, 100%. And also champignon medallion, that is the beef stack with the mushroom sauce, very popular in home cuisine, which is also totally, with a lot of fat and everything. So I think that the good thing is that we have that young generation of the chiefs who now start to do a little experimental work, and I see also that the young people likes to cook. So I also believe that with that new stream, without matter do you like vegetarian or raw, or I that is up to everyone how. But in general, I think that we need to implement this organism in our cuisine, because we make a lot of benefit and for our organism
Mm-hmm.
and for the people who are growing it, because they are taking care about the environment. So, and finally, we have using the fungi in our cuisine, we really make a benefit for our health, for our body. And I think that all of us have to be a little bit selfish around that and think about us. And if we think about us, then we
Mm-hmm.
are thinking about the fungi or mushroom as well.
Yeah. So what you basically are confirming that we need a much bigger enthusiasm from chef cooks
Yeah.
on I mean legume in combination with mushrooms, in combination with seaweed, all the other alternative proteins which
Yeah.
are not which are not the same as throwing a hamburger on the barbecue and you can eat it,
Yes.
because that's a very easy way of eating proteins, but it's not human body needs all the other proteins to make it a complete meal.
Exactly, exactly. And I used to say, if we take a look on the menu which our grandparents had, I think that we will have a much, much better way of nutrition than what we have right now. So I think that in our region, I will tell, meat had been on the table only 2 times per week, on
Hmm.
Thursday and Sunday, and that's all. The rest of the week uh, had been filled. I mean, the people had eaten. Okay, in this region, it was a lot of grain, a lot of leguminous, like a lot of wheat, milk, dairy, whatever, fish, of course. So that was and vegetable, 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 and fruit, fruit, and fruit. And all of the sudden, we have what we have, and now we are going back. And instead, just to take a look on what had been in the past, now we are going to invent plant-based meat. Again, please, I don't want that somebody understand that I have something wrong with the progress. Absolutely not, definitely not. But I think that it is too expensive way, and that all that
Hmm.
hubs who are doing that, and all that investors who are investing in that would have a much more sophisticated way to invest their money to on benefit of
Yeah,
much wider part of the population.
I didn't realize that because I read something else. It's about how much oil you need to produce plastics, and certain types of plastic need a lot of oil. And I'm using that analogy now to what you're saying is that when we move to a plant-based meat, the input costs are so much higher to produce the plant-based meat that it actually is it would be much cheaper to invest in regenerative agriculture.
Of course,
Make
of course.
make sure that the soil comes back again, and
Yes.
sell the fresh fruit back into the city, which has
Normally,
which is
yes, not,
higher.
but excuse me for interrupting, and to selling back in the city, not like exclusive food, but like a just normal, ordinary food, and make available product based on a regenerative agriculture
Yeah.
to the people. And that is the point. And do you know, and not to invest huge millions. I had some not colleague, somebody who I know, I don't know even how, from Switzerland. They came full of enthusiastic because they founded some startup. I don't know, never mind where it is. And now they are going to produce a plant-based meat, and investment is, I think, 4 million euros. My dear Alexander, do you know what you can do with 4 million euros? You can recover half Europe and make the agriculture soil again fertile and nice, and make good food for the cheaper price, and not make exclusivities of something which is just natural. And this is, we turn paradigm upside down,
And then my mind moves to to this part. You're now seeing an uptick on fermentation technology. People are now discovering, at least the Western world is now discovering fermentation, and I want to focus purely on on fermentation processes for food applications. That they're now finding alternatives for let's alternatives for milk. That they found a certain fungi which can produce the milk protein, and now they're figuring out how to industrialize that. But there is also a company, various companies, but I know one in Amsterdam. It's called Willycroft, and they have found a way to produce cheese in a very simple fermentation technology. So they basically what you're seeing, to rephrase it, you're now seeing that people understand that fungi, mycelium, and mushroom can actually have a flavor uh, when you ferment certain food types.
yeah,
We know kimchi, which is also a way of adding. Basically, it's adding value to cow coal. I think that's what the English word is. So that the food has certain microbes, which is good for our health.
yeah,
And you're now seeing a lot of companies moving in that space, that they actually see that fermentation with fungi, yeast, or bacteria create a certain health benefit, which enriches the food, so which enriches vegetables, and as a result enriches us in our microbes and
Yeah.
microbiome. And that's of course a completely different approach of adding value to our food system when you compare that to plant-based industry
Yes.
where they're not investing in regenerative agriculture and want to have a substitute on something food would. However, they will have the same issues on all the minerals, where the mineral input will also need to be taken account into a balance. Where on the other side, if you look at the fermentation technology and natural fermentation and what fungi can do, I mean, you also, I mean, soya and tofu, which is very normal in Asia,
Yes.
is also made by fungi.
Yes, and all other things and all fungi are all around us, and really made the people very much don't know, and they are not aware of the fact that we would never exist without fungi.
Hmm.
Without that is the not because of eating, but because of all what they are doing for us. And devastation and degradation
Yeah.
just to make for your auditorium some maybe for somebody who is not very familiar with that. It is fungi are like let's say tier in supply chain management. If you do not have a tier, you can organize everything super good, but at the end of the day, your goods will stay where they are without tiers. So that's something which is, you cannot, you even don't see them, you cannot consider them like a something important. You absolutely overwatch it, but at the end of the day, without some fungi, we would never exist. And it is
Mm.
cheese, and it is plastic, and it is beer, and it is wow. It is all about it is very often in wine and whatever, and kefir and milk and dairy and devastation and degradation and finally at the end of the day, and our good food.
I like your analogy with supply chain and fungi. I mean, that recalls that they call the mycelium the internet
Yeah,
of the plant kingdom,
yeah,
and
yes.
fungi are really good at breaking things down and yet providing new building blocks for a new piece of life.
Yeah, and that is also something which is very popular and new. But in my career and in my way, I am sticking with this what you say with the food, and I
Hmm.
am going around the food. Yes,
No, no, it just I mean, it's always good to explore the other areas to see
yes,
what
of course, of
analogies you have,
course.
and because in a way you're fermenting your substrate waste
Yes,
for the animals, and then the question arises: is the mushroom a byproduct of feedstock for the ruminants?
yeah,
If then it gives you the opportunity to play around with that, with what is your primary focus, or what is your secondary focus, and what comes out of there. And
yeah,
and once you understand fermentation, you understand what mushrooms can do,
yeah,
and then you understand that its potential is much bigger. And then, as you mentioned, then you can question the investments in plant-based burgers purely because the mushrooms can already do that work. So why would you set up a completely complex system where the cost of producing it is much higher than what naturally would come out of agriculture?
of course.
And
And the quality
but
is with the big question mark.
but then, okay, it's also interesting because then what you're arguing is that people have forgotten the taste of raw food
Yes,
because everything is
yes,
processed, and then
yes.
everything has to get a new taste because you're bored with
And
the
you
previous
have some,
taste.
yes, and you have some artificial tastes. But Alexander, I hesitate to talk about that, because I am coming from the region where food is very important. Here
Hmm.
in this region and in mentality, everything is going around the food, and that is the first. Second, maybe I am old-fashioned. I don't know. I can accept that I am not in line with the new modern approaches, and that's why it is very, it is very. But for me, I think that I think that when we insisting when here that and on example, I will tell you an example. People who are coming in Ekofungi, they are really coming from all around the world. And I told you already, very often they are very scary because they don't know where the Belgrade is, how they are, blah, blah, they don't know. They, oh my goodness, it is. But okay. And then we meet them. And after 6, 7 days, trust me, uh, I only had one experience, and I will not talk about that, but only one experience long time ago when people didn't like here and when they were looking forward to go. But the reason why it was not because of us, but because they had been pushed to come, and then it
Mm.
was totally wrong. And but all the other are leaving this. We are very modest. It is very simple. It is nothing special, they are leaving with the tears. And then and trust me, I receive such wonderful
Yeah.
mails and wonderful photos and wonderful, very rare, of course sometimes I'm very much disappointed because believe, but it is other story. And on the other side, I have people are living here. And do you know, I am absolutely aware that one of the reasons why they are so happy with us, okay, open source knowledge, la, 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 that's all super good, super nice, everything. But we take care about their food here. And we take care about the 3 meals during the day according our habits. And I think, trust me. And that I hadn't done it, but it is my personal feeling that one of the very serious component of that nice feeling what people
Mm.
has when they are here is food. Really, that is not only what you eat, but all and it is nothing artificial because here it is the way of life. It is like in Greek, it is Italian, this is Mediterranean stuff. But here, especially because of so in line with that fact that we forgot, and I see how people enjoy that natural way of and it is simply food. Listen, when I have a 12 persons around table, we cannot offer, some super special and that is our ordinary food for the everyday. But and I see that people really likes that natural taste and natural
Mm.
crispy things. And even if something is not super good for them, they will find something. So I think that we really need to reconsider importance of the good food according our habit. You have in Holland different habit in compare with my here, but let's come back on the original taste of salad, strawberry. Uh, I don't want that people who are listening us believe that we are now ready to go back in the middle century. No,
Mm,
not
mm,
at
mm,
all.
mm,
But
mm,
we
mm, mm.
just not. We want to make to create again a hedonism around our life, to create a joy, to create a pleasure, to create a nice feeling of having modest but normal lunch based on the good pork uh, schnitzel, how you call it, pork steak. Not because maybe you don't like pork, maybe you don't like meat at all, but then take it, one cucumber and have a good spinach and make a stack of spinach, but make it normal, fresh, and tasty. And this is the source of the happiness. And it is not because we believe that the science proved that.
Fresh food is so hard to get, Ivanka. When I was traveling around the world, I loved Asia because you can eat on every corner of the street fresh
I
food.
know. Yes, but I will tell you something, Alexander. When we created that our dehydrated product, the idea was to make something something which looks almost like fresh food because it is only water excluded,
Mm-hmm.
nothing destroyed, nothing, 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 nothing. It is crispy. When you rehydrate that, it is still crispy. And I said, oh my goodness, it is super good. We will exclude the water, food is crispy, and for all of the people who admire fresh food, instead to eat that awful hamburgers and awful, lyophilized, I'm sorry, and frozen and everything, it will be super good to have something on the food, to have a lunch break, to put in the water, to take a little bit. And do you what happened? Nothing, because it is fashionable to have a frozen, to have a deep fried, to have a lyophilized, to have all that because it is fashionable. And my dear Alexander, most of our habits are coming from marketing. And that is the
Mm.
point also. I am a very small company. We needed 5 years to be recognized like a good supplier. And I am super happy that we are recognized in all that billions and billions big market like Amazon is. But that's the point. That is the point. And it is important that if in school, in kindergarten, in the primary school, we are talking about the good food, then you will create the habit. You cannot create the habit of the people of 30 years. It is already gone. Ciao. No, doesn't.
If I can tell you, when you're a parent,
Now you have a practice.
you tend to lose the habit for a couple of years, and then you can move back because you have other. The logistics is a what do you call it? Is a hell of a job to arrange that, and then you choose the easy way out. But we are not doing that with a smile. But we only know that it's the only way for the short moment to get things done. But I understand what you're saying. But it's also about availability. If fresh food would be much more available and easier, yeah, then uh, then it would also be much easier. I think it's a good closure also for this podcast when we look at mushrooms. If the availability and what you can do with it for, let's say, for meals, and how you can consume it in what way you can eat it raw, you can cook it, you can boil it, you can mix it. You
Yeah.
can mix it with spinach, but you can mix it with pasta. You can mix it with other produce, and you can add salt and pepper if you want. And if you start to appreciate the taste of a mushroom, because its shiitake tastes completely different than an oyster and a king oyster.
Yes.
I really like citadella, but
Uh-huh.
they are not as easy available in the supermarkets because they.
Yes, yes, because it cannot be cultivated, and all those varieties which are only hunting in the forest, it is strongly depend of the season, and in that case, and do you know what? Also, that's something also what needs to be emphasized in the West Europe, in EU, mushroom hunting is almost forbidden. And the all fresh Chantarella,
Mhm.
Portabello, and those wonderful varieties are only imported from our poorer part of the Europe, because here the mushroom hunting is still allowed. So
Is
that's
that a
why
good thing or a bad thing, Ivanka?
I don't think that it is good thing, because people, it is a huge trade. It is like a trade with everything which is natural. People are hunting mushroom all day long, selling for nothing, for some peanuts, and some traders, completely cretins,
Mm.
are buying that and selling that to you, and you guys are running after because you like it. So I am not very much, I know how the things are going on the field here, and I am And I have a lot of people who I know a lot of people who are doing that, and it's not my piece of cake. It is, it is. I will admire that. First of all, if there is no control and you destroy the population of the fungi in the forest, that is the first. Second, people who are doing hunting for the money, they are most of the time very poor, and then it's not a fair trade
No, no, I
between
understand
them.
it because cantarella, you pay a little bit more for that because they are really, they taste
Yeah,
really
but
good.
like very often there is that's the fantastic well, taste, and we cannot compare. But okay, if you are mushroom hunter, the nature around provide. But I have to tell you, I had never harvest any time mushrooms in the forest. Never,
I
ever.
did, I
I
did
don't,
it.
not because I don't like it, but I simply do, I'm afraid. So
I
never.
Cheeto showed me around to Zimbabwe. We harvested mushrooms for our breakfast, and
Yeah,
and
she's
and I
expert.
was
She's
I was
expert.
afraid like hell because I had no idea which one you can eat, which one you cannot eat, where you could find them. And she's like, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And that was my first time I was eating cantarelles, and since then I was like, whoa, these are tasty, and yet we have no idea what we have, but no idea when we find them in the forest what to do with them. And that is also like it's like an analphabet on mushrooms. And once you understand, it's the same like cherry picking. If you go um, uh, going out for grapes or blueberries or something, you know them because you know them by your parents. But our parents are not teaching us to differentiate in the mushrooms. So it's also, in a way, I think we mentioned it also. It's also an educational part of not being afraid of
Yes,
mushrooms
it is.
and
Yeah, yes.
understanding once what you mentioned. Once you understand mushrooms and you see them, I mean, I walk around here and it's like mushrooms, mushrooms, and people are like, why is this guy so happy? But it's once you see them, it's always. I mean, for me, it feels like it's a good thing when you see them when they're mushrooming because then something is at work. But
Yeah,
but
there is some piece of nature
yeah, I
still.
have no idea which species they are and what their function are. But once you have been educated from a natural nature point of view and you understand who is there, where, and which you can eat, when, and how, the natural world becomes much more. Sorry for saying it, but it's natural, and you appreciate it much better. And that's what you've done this afternoon, Ivanka. We touched a lot of aspects, and what you said, you're always with two feet on the ground. We constantly brought it back to reality and put that into perspective. How your culture is working in Serbia, but also how here in Holland, but also in the world in general, how we perceive fungi, mycelium, and mushrooms, because it's all the same, but everybody names them differently, and they have a really important role to play. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, Ivanka, which kind of music they enjoy.
And Alexander, we touched such a lot of subject, and let's organize the next one. And in the meantime, I will test it and I will show to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ivanka.
Thank you, Alexander, and I hope that our auditorium enjoyed. And thank you really very much. It was a great pleasure and to talk about the mushrooms.